Tonight, calm stories over rainy Minecraft, and everyone asks the same quiet question. Am I overreacting? You decide. First up, $11 leaves my father's account on the 9th of every month, and none of us know the name it goes to. I thought I'd found the worst thing about him. I'd found the best. Here we go. $11 leaves my father's account on the 9th of every month. It goes to a name none of us recognize, and it has been going out for as long as the online statements go back. I found it because I was helping him move his banking onto the app. He is 71 and he did not want the app. He wanted the paper, and the paper had stopped coming. So we compromised on me sitting at his kitchen table with his glasses on my head, to scrolling. The name was a woman's. First name and surname, no reference, no note. $11, the 9th, every month, going back through every page the bank would show me. I asked him who she was. He said she was nobody I needed to worry about, and would I like a biscuit? So I did what anybody would do, which was assume the worst and then feel sick about it for a fortnight. My mother has been gone 6 years. I did the arithmetic on whether $11 a month was the kind of number a man pays to keep something quiet. And I could not make it work, and I could not make it stop rattling either. I did the thing you do at 3 in the morning, which is put the name into a search bar. There were 4 of her in the country, and none of them explained anything. I looked at a photograph of a woman in her 60s outside a garden center for longer than I want to admit. My sister said leave it. She said whatever it is, he is 71 and it has been going out since before we were born. And there is no version of this where knowing makes his life better. I said I was not doing it for his life. She said, no, let that sit there until I got off the phone. I asked him again at Christmas, badly, in front of my sister. He put his fork down and looked at me for a long moment. The woman is the daughter of a man who ran a corner shop on the street my father grew up on. When my father was 9 and his own father was out of work, that shop let his mother take food on a tab. No book, no interest, no conversation about it. It ran for the better part of 2 years, and it was never once mentioned to her face. My father started paying it back when he got his first wage. He worked out what he thought the tab had come to, and he sent a little every month. The shopkeeper sent it back twice, then stopped sending it back and started just not cashing it. My father kept going. The shopkeeper died in the 80s. My father found the daughter and kept going. She has told him 3 times that the debt was settled before she was born. He says he knows that. That story ends there. I asked him what the 11 was, why that number. He said it was what he could manage at 17, and he never saw a good reason to change it. My father-in-law pays for everything in exact coins. Not roughly exact. Exact. He counts them out onto the counter one at a time while the queue builds up behind him, and he does not hurry. I have stood behind him in a supermarket while a man with one basket sighed so hard I felt it on my neck. I have watched a cashier hold her hand out flat and wait. He does not look up. He counts. For 2 years I thought it was stubbornness. He is a stubborn man in most other ways, so it fitted, and I stopped questioning it the way you stopped questioning a squeaky door. I tried to help once. I put a note down on the counter beside his coins quickly. the way you would catch something falling. He picked it up and handed it back to me without a word and carried on counting from where he had stopped. My wife told me afterwards that I had embarrassed him, and I said I was trying to stop him being embarrassed, and she said yes. And that is the difference between you. We did not talk about it for the rest of the drive, which in her family is roughly the equivalent of shouting. Then my wife's mother told me he had been doing it since before they were married, and that he had not always been like that. He used to pay with notes like everybody else. What changed was a week in 1988 when he was short. Not short the way we say it. Short the way where you put things back on the shelf in front of people. He got to the front of a queue with a basket and not enough, and he had to decide what to leave. And he did it slowly because his hands were shaking. He decided that night that he would never again arrive at a till not knowing exactly what he had. So he counts it before he leaves the house, and he counts it again at the counter, and the queue can do what it likes. That story ends there. I have started letting him go first. It is not faster. It was never going to be faster. My brother orders the cheapest wine on the list. Every restaurant, every time, and most pointedly when the meal is on me. He does it without reading anything else. The waiter hands him the list. He turns to the back page. He runs his finger to the bottom line, and that is the order. He has done it at my wedding anniversary. He did it the night I got promoted. I took it as a comment. I had just told him what the new job paid, and I thought he was making a small, quiet point about it. The way brothers do when they cannot say a thing straight. It got worse. The better things went for me. That is what I noticed and could not stop noticing. Small job, he ordered normally. Big job, back page, bottom line, no eye contact. I started to dread the wine list. I would take the menu off him and read the whole thing out loud like an idiot, describing things. And he would wait until I had finished and then say the name of the cheapest one to the waiter. Twice I ordered something else over the top of him, and he did not touch it. I made a joke about it at a family dinner, not a kind joke. He laughed and did not answer, and my mother changed the subject so fast the table noticed. She told me afterwards. When he was 23, he took a girl he was serious about to a restaurant he could not afford. And he ordered the second cheapest bottle rather than the cheapest because he did not want her to think he was counting. The bill came to more than he had. She paid it. They were fine about it, and then they were not fine about it, and it was not the only reason, but it was in the room for the rest of it. He decided he was finished pretending. If the cheapest one is the one he wants to pay for, that is the one he orders, and anybody who reads something into it can read it. That story ends there. I've started ordering the cheapest bottle too. It is usually fine, and twice now it has been the best thing on the table. My mother hands me a sealed envelope of cash at the end of every visit. She does it at the door, with her coat already on to walk me out, and she will not discuss it. It is not a set amount. Sometimes it is $40. Once it was $300. She presses it into my hand, closes my fingers over it, and says the same 7 words every time, which are, "Put that away and drive carefully." I am 34. I earn more than she ever did. I have tried refusing it, and she leaves it in my coat pocket. I have tried posting it back, and she sends it again with more in it. I counted them once. Not the money, the visits. 14 envelopes in a year, which is every single time I went, including the time I was there for 40 minutes to fix a smoke alarm. That was the one that tipped it for me. 40 minutes, one screwdriver, and an envelope at the door with $60 in it. I sat in the car outside her house and felt something I could not name, and the closest I got was that it felt like being paid to leave. For a while, I thought it was about control. My sister thinks it is about control. We had a long conversation about it in a car park once, both of us sure we were being managed. Then I found the envelopes. She keeps the used ones, flattened in a tin, and there are hundreds of them going back years. And on the back of each one in pencil is a date and a single word: rent, tires, boiler, coat, vet. She's been writing down what she guessed it went on, not asking, guessing. The pencil is faint because she goes back and corrects herself when she finds out she was wrong. Her own mother never gave her a thing, and she says the worst part was not the money. It was having to explain every time what it was for. That story ends there. I take the envelope now and I do not say anything. Last month I told her, unprompted, that it went on the boiler. She wrote it down after I left. My grandfather will not carry a 50. If one comes into his hands, he takes it into a shop, buys something small, and comes out with a fistful of smaller notes. He has done this in front of me at a petrol station, buying a chocolate bar he did not want, with a note that made the cashier sigh. He put the change in his wallet in order, biggest at the back, and looked satisfied. My father calls it a superstition and leaves it there. My aunt says it is because he does not trust big notes to be real, which never made sense to me, because he does not check them. I watched him do it in a bank once, which struck me as the strangest version. He withdrew 100, then queued again at the counter to have it broken. And the cashier asked if there was a problem with the notes, and he said no, they were lovely notes. My cousin thinks it is about the war, which is nonsense, because he was born after it. My aunt thinks he was robbed once and will not say. I have heard 4 theories in this family, and every one of them was invented by somebody who did not ask him. I asked him myself on a long drive when neither of us had to look at the other. He said a 50 is no use to anybody. He said if a man asks you for help and all you have is a 50, you either give him $50 or you give him a lecture about not having change, and one of those is a lie. He does not want to be standing there deciding. He grew up somewhere that people asked. He remembers his own father saying he had nothing on him, and he remembers that it was not true. And he remembers watching his father's face while he said it. So he breaks the 50. Then whatever anybody needs, he has it, and there is no decision to make. That story ends there. He gave a man outside the supermarket $20 last winter and did not mention it for a month. My grandmother says he has been doing that since before she met him. My wife has never once claimed money she was owed. Not a refund, not a rebate, not a cancelled booking, not the $2,000 an airline owed us last year and eventually stopped emailing about. She is not disorganized. She runs our whole house on a calendar that could launch a rocket. She simply will not do it. She lets the deadline pass, and then she is peaceful about it in a way that used to make me want to put my head through a wall. We had a real argument about the airline. I had the form filled in. All she had to do was sign it, and she would not say why either, which made it worse. The number that year was closer to 3,000 once I added it all up. An airline, a gym that kept billing, a deposit on a holiday cottage that flooded, and a season ticket for trains that did not run for a month. I put it in a spreadsheet because that is who I am, and I showed it to her on a Sunday. She looked at it properly. She said, "That is a lot," in the voice of somebody agreeing about the weather, and then she asked whether we were doing anything about lunch. Then a month later she told me, in the middle of doing something else, which is how she tells me everything that matters. Her father spent the last 11 years of his working life chasing money he was owed. He was a builder and people did not pay him, and he was too proud to write it off and not hard enough to make them. She grew up watching him at the kitchen table with a folder on the phone, being polite for the 9th time to somebody who was never going to pay. She said he was a lovely man everywhere except at that table. She decided very young that she would rather be short than be him. So when somebody owes her, she gives it away in her head on the first day, and then there is nothing to chase. That story ends there. I claimed the airline money myself in the end, and I did not tell her, and I put it in the account we do not look at. She has never asked. My sister buys everything used. Her clothes, her furniture, her car, and the presents she gives my children. The children are 7 and 4, and last Christmas they got a second-hand scooter with a scuff on the footplate and a jigsaw with the box, taped at one corner. My wife smiled and said nothing, and I could hear her not saying it. I found it embarrassing. That is the honest word. My sister is not poor. She has a job and a flat and no dependents, and I could not work out why my children were getting other people's things. The scooter was the one that did it. My son is 7, and he had asked for it for 4 months, and it arrived with a scuff on the footplate and a sticker on the stem that had been half picked off by whoever had it before. He did not care. That is the part I keep having to be honest about. He was out of the door with it before the wrapping was off the floor. It was me standing in the hallway with a paper in my hands, deciding to be insulted on behalf of a child who was already at the end of the road. I said something about it, not directly because we are not that family, but close enough that she knew. She took me into her spare room and showed me the shelf. She buys everything used and puts the difference in an account, one for each of them, and she's been doing it since the day each was born. She showed me the numbers. It is not a small shelf, and it is not a small number. She said a new scooter is a good afternoon. She said what is in that account is a deposit, or a year of not panicking, or whatever it turns out they need at 22. Then she said the part I keep thinking about, which was that she did not want to be the aunt who was fun. She wanted to be the one they could ring. That story ends there. The scooter is still going. The scuff is now one of about 40, and my youngest could not tell you which one came with it. My husband will not let the car go below half a tank. Not on a motorway, not on a Sunday, not when we are already late and there is a cheaper station 8 minutes further on. He pulls in at half, every time. I have watched him fill up for $11 because the needle touched the line on the way to a wedding. I used to find it funny. Then I found it expensive because the station he uses is the convenient one and never the cheap one. And I did the sums 1 year and it was not nothing. I timed it once, out of spite. 11 minutes added to a journey because the station he uses is on the wrong side of a roundabout and you have to go around twice to get back on. He filled up $18 worth. That, plus 11 minutes, and a wedding we were now going to be last into. I said nothing in the car, loudly, for about 9 miles, and he put the radio on, which he does when he knows exactly what I am not saying. I brought the sums to him, which I now understand was a way of saying, I think you were being silly. He looked at the paper and said, that is fair, and did not change a thing. His mother had a car that ran on whatever was in it. That was the household, not a plan, just whatever was in it. And when he was 15, his sister was ill in the night, and the car had fumes in it. And they waited for a neighbor who was a long time coming, and everything turned out fine. And he has never once in 20 years let a tank go below half. He told me that in about 4 sentences, and then asked what I wanted for dinner. That story ends there. We still use the expensive station. I have stopped doing the sums. The man at the corner shop always rounds my total down, never up. It has been going on for 2 years, and I have started to find it stressful. $4.20 becomes $4. $9.95 becomes $9.50. He does it fast, with a little wave of the hand, as though the till has made a suggestion he is choosing to ignore. At first, I thought he liked me. Then I noticed he does it for everybody, and I started worrying about him instead, because you cannot run a shop that way. And this is a small street, and the shop is not busy. I started keeping track, which tells you where my head was. Over about 6 weeks, it came to somewhere near $40 from me alone. In a shop that sells milk and newspapers on a street with 9 houses on it. I could not make the arithmetic survive. I stood outside once and counted customers for 20 minutes like a madman and got to 5. I went home and told my husband I thought the shop was going under and that we should start buying more from it, which we did, and which made absolutely no difference because he rounded that down too. I tried leaving the difference on the counter. He put it back in my hand. I tried buying something extra. He rounded that down too. I asked his son, who does Saturdays. The son laughed so hard he had to put down a crate. He rounds down because his father rounded up. That is the whole thing. His father ran the same shop and had a reputation on that street for the opposite of generosity. And it followed the family around for 30 years. And when he took it over, he decided the simplest way to end an argument nobody would have with him directly was to make the till go the other way until people forgot. The son says it costs them roughly what a decent advert would cost and works considerably better. That story ends there. I still leave the change. He still puts it back. We are both aware this is now the transaction. A friend lent me $4,000 and has refused every attempt to pay it back. 4 years of refusing. He lent it to me during the bad year, the one where I do not remember whole months. He did it by transfer with no message, after one phone call in which I did not actually ask. I started paying it back the following spring. He sent it straight back. I sent it again in smaller pieces so it would look less like a repayment and more like nothing. He sent those back too. The transfer came through at 11:10 at night. No message, no reference, nothing. I rang him and he answered and talked for 4 minutes about a football match and then said he had to go. That is the part I could never get over. He did not want to be thanked and he did not want to be asked. And he had somehow decided in the time it took to end that phone call that the entire thing was already finished. I have never in my life been so grateful and so annoyed at the same person on the same evening. I have tried paying for things. He orders the cheapest thing and then pays before I get to the counter, which is its own kind of infuriating. Last year, I got angry about it, properly angry, and told him it was not a gift if the other person never agreed to it, and would he please just let me be level with him. He said he was not doing it to be kind. He said when his father died, there was a man at the funeral he had never met, who told him that his father had done the same for him in 1979, and that he had never been allowed to pay it back either, and that he had been waiting 30 years for somebody to hand it to. He said the man cried in a car park about a debt from before my friend was born. He said he was not interested in doing that to anyone. That story ends there. What he wants, apparently, is for me to do it for somebody else and never mention it. I have. He has never asked, which I now understand was the entire point. My brother earns more than anyone in our family and uses a phone with a screen like a spider's web. It has been like that for 2 years. You have to hold it at an angle to read anything. He is a contractor. He is very well paid and not shy about it in any other respect. He drives something sensible and eats out constantly and has, somewhere in his flat, a coffee machine that costs more than my first car. The phone stays. My mother has offered to buy him a new one, which is absurd, and he said no, which is more absurd. It is genuinely bad. He has to angle it under the light to read a message, and there is a line of dead pixels down the middle that eats about a third of every photograph he takes. He took the family Christmas photo on it last year. 12 of us, arranged for 10 minutes, and the result has a black bar through my mother. She has it printed and on the fridge. When I offered to retake it on my phone, she said no, that one is fine, and I could not work out whether she was being kind to him or to me. At a birthday, I asked him straight out, in front of people, why. It was not a generous question, and everybody heard it that way. He said it works. Then, because I did not let it go, he said the longer version, which is that the phone was the first thing he bought when his business turned the corner. He had spent 3 years on a phone that died at lunchtime, and he bought that one on the day the accountant told him he was going to be. Fine. He cracked it a month later, dropping it off a roof. He said he thought about replacing it and then realized he did not want to. It is the only object he owns that marks the exact day. He said everything else he has bought since is just stuff he can afford. That story ends there. He has finally replaced it 3 months ago. The old one is in a drawer and I checked, and it is not switched off. My wife insists we pay our babysitter well over the going rate. Not slightly over, nearly double, and she will not hear about it. The girl is 19 and does 3 evenings a month. She is good with our son, and she is on time, and she is also, by any measure I could find, being paid far more than anyone else on our road pays. I raised it once as a budget item in the tone of a man reading out a spreadsheet, which is a tone my wife has heard before and does not enjoy. I know what everybody else pays because I asked, which I now see was the part that should have told me something. I asked 3 people on our road, and then I brought the average home like evidence. The gap is not small. Over a year it is a holiday. I laid that out too, carefully, the way you would to somebody who has not thought about it. And she listened to the whole thing and then said, "So we will not have that holiday," and started loading the dishwasher. She said that one is not moving and moved on to the next line. That was the whole discussion. I found out why from her sister at a christening after a glass of wine. My wife babysat all through school for a family on the next street. 4 hours, 2 children, and an amount that she now describes as what they had decided a girl was worth. She never said anything because you do not, and because they were nice to her, and because she needed it. She kept the money in a tin, and it took her a year and a half to save what she needed for the thing she wanted. And she has never told me what the thing was. She decided that when she was the one on the other side of it, the number would not be the interesting part of the evening. That story ends there. The girl is going to university in September. My wife has already told her the job is hers in every holiday at the same rate, and has already decided that is not a subject for discussion either. My mother has an account she has never withdrawn a cent from, 30 years. It sits there, money goes in. I know about it because I do her tax return. It is not a large account and it is not in a clever place. It earns almost nothing, and I've offered 4 times to move it somewhere that would actually do something, and she has said no 4 times without giving a reason. She's otherwise sensible about money. She switched her energy supplier last year on her own and told me about it for a week. I ran the numbers on what it has cost her. 30 years, a rate that has been effectively nothing for most of them, and inflation doing what inflation does. It is a genuinely upsetting figure, and I wrote it on a piece of paper and took it to her house. She read it and said it looked about right. Then she folded the paper in half and put it under the fruit bowl, where things go in that house when they are not going to be discussed again, and asked me if I'd eaten. I got exasperated and told her she was losing money by leaving it. She said, "I know exactly what I am losing." The account is in her name and my father's, and my father has been gone 11 years. It was opened the month they married for the house they were going to buy in a town they never moved to. Both their names are on the paper. It is the only piece of paper left with both their names on it that is still, in any sense, live. She said if she moves it, she opens a new account, and a new account has one name on it. She knows what it costs her. She has done the arithmetic more carefully than I have. That story ends there. I have stopped offering. I put a note in her file so that when I am gone and somebody else does her tax return, they will not offer either. A colleague writes down every coffee anybody buys him in a notebook. Small, black, kept in his jacket, and he takes it out at the counter and writes while you are still paying. It is a lot. He is at a desk where people pass him constantly, and somebody buys him something most days, and the notebook has been going for years. Nobody minds until they notice, and then everybody minds because it looks like being kept score against. 2 people on our floor have stopped offering entirely. 2 people stopped buying him anything. That is the actual cost of it, and I do not think he noticed for months, because he is not a man who notices that kind of weather. One of them said it out loud in the kitchen that she was not being audited over a $2 coffee. And there were 4 of us in there and nobody disagreed with her. I did not disagree with her. I stood there holding a mug and thought, well, that is that man finished on this floor, and went back to my desk. I asked him about it at the Christmas thing, which is the only time our office asks each other anything. He turned to the back of the notebook. There is a second list. Same names, and beside each one a date and an amount, and the amounts are all considerably larger than a coffee. He buys them back, not the same week, because that is a transaction. He waits until somebody has had a bad month, and then he does something disproportionate about it. And he's been doing this for 11 years, and had never told anybody until I asked. He said the front of the book is so he does not forget who is kind to him, because he has a genuinely terrible memory, and he did not want it to be a character flaw. That story ends there. I told 2 people. Both of them started buying him coffee again immediately, which he found very funny and wrote down. My father has worn the same coat for 22 years. Green, heavy, one pocket re-sewn twice. A hole in the lining he puts his glasses through by accident about once a month. We have bought him coats, 3 of them that I know of, all still in the wardrobe with the tags on. He thanks you properly and hangs them up and puts the green one back on. My mother stopped fighting it a decade ago. My sister thinks it is sentimentality about being young. I thought it was plain stubbornness and told him so in about the way you would expect. It is not a good coat anymore. That is the thing nobody says to him. The cuffs have gone shiny. One pocket sits lower than the other since the second repair. And there is a smell to it in the rain that his grandchildren have started making a joke of. He wore it to my daughter christening. Photographs that will exist for 60 years. Everybody in something new. And my father in a green coat older than the mother of the child. My wife said not one word about it, which is how I knew she had thought about it. He let me finish and then said, "Do you want to know?" And I realized I had never actually asked. He bought it the week I was born, not for himself. He bought it because the hospital was cold and he was going to be there a while and he had nothing warm. And he bought the cheapest heavy thing in the shop across the road at 11 at night. He wore it every day of the 2 weeks we were in there. He says he does not remember much about that fortnight, except that he was frightened the whole time and the coat was warm. He said, "I know it is only a coat." Then he put it on and went out to the car. That story ends there. The new ones are still in the wardrobe. I've stopped buying them and started paying for the repairs instead, which he allows. And which I think we both understand is the same conversation conducted properly. My mother tapes a 20 into every card she sends. Birthdays, obviously. Also Christmas, also Easter, also get well, also thinking of you, also a card last March that said no occasion, just felt like it. Everybody gets one. Me, my brother, our partners, the grandchildren, my brother's stepson, who she has met 4 times. She tapes it. Actual sticky tape over the note onto the inside of the card, so you have to peel it off, and the tape takes a little of the print with it. The tape is the part that gets people. It takes a corner of the card with it every time, so every card in that shoebox has a small torn patch on the inside where the 20 used to be. My brother made a speech about it at a barbecue 2 summers ago. Funny, mostly. He did the voice. Everybody laughed, and my mother laughed too, and she was still laughing when she got up to get something from the kitchen and did not come back for a bit. My brother finds it embarrassing. He is 41, and he says getting a tape 20 from your mother at 41 is not a thing a man needs. She grew up in a house where the post was bills. That is the whole of it. She has said it once, flatly, and never again. Envelopes were bad news for the first 18 years of her life, and she has spent the 60 since making sure that anything with her handwriting on it is not. The 20 is not the point, and she knows the 20 is not the point. The 20 is so you open it. That story ends there. My brother keeps every card. I know because I helped him move, and there is a shoebox, and it is full, and he did not say a word about it while I was carrying it. My landlord has never charged me a late fee. I have been late 11 times in 6 years, twice by more than a fortnight, and the fee is in the agreement, and it has never once appeared. He is not soft. He is exact about everything else. Inspections on the day, receipts for repairs, a written note when the bins were wrong. He is not a man who forgets a clause. I asked him about it, badly, during the worst of the late ones, when I was already braced for a conversation about whether I could stay. The worst one was 19 days. 19 days, and I did not message him about it either, because I had got to the stage where I was hoping he had not noticed, which is not a stage anybody is proud of. He noticed. He came round on day 20 to look at a window that did not need looking at, and he stood in my kitchen talking about the frame for 10 minutes, and then he left. And there was nothing on the account the next day either. I sat down on the stairs after he had gone. He said the rent was the rent, and the date was a suggestion the bank had made, and did I need the boiler looking at? His son told me the rest years later in the hallway. His father rented for most of his life and was charged a late fee in a month when his wife was ill, and it was $40. And it meant something particular that month, and he has never got over the fact that a person sat down and decided to add it. He owns 4 flats now. He has never charged a fee in any of them. The clause is in the agreement because his solicitor put it there, and he cannot be bothered to have it taken out. That story ends there. I have not been late in 2 years. I would like to tell you that is a coincidence. My aunt shops the reduced shelf at closing time, only that shelf. She plans her week around when each shop marks down and she is not remotely short of money. She has a good pension and a paid-off house and one of those cars that tells you when you are tired. She could shop anywhere at any hour. Instead, she is in the supermarket at 8:40 on a Tuesday with a basket, waiting by the chiller for a man with a label gun. And she's been doing it for as long as I have known her. She will not be moved on the timing. 8:45, and if you offer to drive her earlier, she will thank you and go on her own later anyway. She has missed things for it. She missed the second half of my nephew's birthday because the shop marks down at 8:30 on a Saturday. That was the night I said what I said. Everybody heard it. I told her she was 74 and she'd earned the right to buy a chicken at full price like a normal person, and the table went quiet. And she put her hand on my arm and said, "That is fair, love." I found it grim. I said so once. I said she was making her life smaller for no reason, and she deserved better than other people's leftovers. She said she was not shopping, she was cooking. She takes whatever is on the shelf, whatever it happens to be, and she has to make something out of it, and that is the part she likes. She has done it since she was widowed at 51 and could not face a supermarket where she chose things. Because choosing things is what she used to do with him, aisle by aisle, and it took her about 9 minutes to find that out the hard way. The reduced shelf decides for her. She just cooks. That story ends there. I ate at hers last month. It was pork with apricots and something green I could not identify, and it was better than anything I have chosen for myself in a year. My father keeps a folder he will not explain. Green cardboard in the bottom of the filing cabinet, and it comes out once a year in January and goes back in the same afternoon. We know it is policies. You can see the letterheads when he has it open. He does not hide it exactly, but he closes it if you come in, and he has never answered a question about it in my life. My sister thinks it is debt. She has thought that for years, and it has colored how she talks to him. January is the only month he is strange. He is a straightforward man for 11 months of the year, and then there is one afternoon where he is in the back room with the door not quite shut and the radio on louder than he needs it. My sister has built a whole theory on it. She thinks there is a debt or a second family or something from the business in the 90s that never got resolved. She has said the word second family to me twice seriously, and I did not laugh either time, and that is what I am most ashamed of. I looked. I am not proud of that. He was in the garden and the cabinet was open, and I looked. It is 11 policies, small ones, the kind you pay a few dollars a month into. One in each of our names, and one in each of the grandchildren's names, and two in the names of my cousins, whose father, his brother, has not spoken to him since 1996. The January afternoon is him going through and updating the amounts against what he thinks each of us is going to need. He will not explain it because explaining it means saying out loud that he has thought carefully about a world he is not in, and he would rather do almost anything than make his children sit through that. That story ends there. I put the folder back. I have not told my sister, and I am aware that is now my folder too. My parents finished their mortgage 6 years ago, and the payment still goes out every month. Same day, same amount, to an account with their own names on it. I found it doing the same tidy up that found my father's $11, which tells you something about the kind of month I was having. I assumed it was an error nobody had noticed. 6 years of an error is a lot of money, and I got quite excited about being the one to fix it. 6 years at that number is more than I make in a year. I want to be clear that when I found it, I did not feel clever. I felt sick. because my first thought was that two people in their 70s had been quietly bled by a bank for 6 years, and nobody in this family had looked. I rang the bank before I rang them, which I regret. The woman on the phone was very patient and told me she could not discuss an account I was not on, and I said, "But it is an error." And she said, "Is it?" My mother said, "That is not an error," in the voice she uses when a subject is closing. They spent 19 years paying that number every month, and they arranged their whole life around it. When it ended, my father said the house felt like it had been handed to somebody else. So they kept paying it into their own account, where it builds up, and once a year they take some of it out and do something with it that they would never otherwise have decided to do. That is where the greenhouse came from. That is where the trip to see my brother came from. My mother said the money was never the hard part. The hard part was that for 19 years they always knew what the money was for. That story ends there. The account is called 19 Years. My father set the name up on the app himself, which for him is roughly the equivalent of writing a poem. My grandmother keeps one coin in her purse that she will not spend. It sits in the little zip pocket on its own, and it has been there my whole life. It is not rare. I have checked more than once with the thoroughness of a child convinced he has found treasure. It is worth exactly what it says on it, and it is not even in good condition. She does not make a ceremony of it. If you ask, she will show you. She has shown me perhaps 4 times in 30 years, and each time she has closed the purse straight afterwards. My cousin tried to spend it once. He was about 9, and he took it out of her purse for the ice cream van and got as far as the gate before she was out of the front door in her slippers. She was not angry with him. That is what everybody remembers about it. She took it back and put it in the zip pocket and gave him a note instead and told him to get one for his sister too. But she stood at the gate and watched him the whole way down the road, and she did not go back inside until he had turned the corner. Everyone in the family knows it is there. Nobody has ever been told what it is, and after a while nobody asked, because it started to feel like the sort of question you get one go at. She told me in March, sitting in the chair she now mostly sits in, apropos of nothing at all. My grandfather gave it to her on the second time they met, not as a gift. She was short for the bus, and he had it in his pocket and he gave it to her and told her not to make it a thing. She never used it. She walked instead, an hour and a bit in the rain, and she says she has never once regretted the walk. She said, "Everybody thinks it is because he gave it to me." Then she said, "It is because it is the only thing I own that I decided to keep before I knew he was going to matter." That story ends there. She has told my mother where it goes. She has not told me, and I have decided I do not need to know, and that being the one who was told the story is enough. That is all of them. Thank you for staying up with me. If you are still awake, that is fine too. Sleep well, and be gentle with whoever is being strange about money in your life. It is almost never about the money.